Hello everyone, this is Tim, and this video I'm going to talk about my 10 most favorite RPG products that I own. And this is in response to the Dyvers blog that I've recently subscribed to. I'll put a link down below for his article, his blog. But without further ado, my first one, and these are in no really particular order, is the Lamentations of the Flame Princess box set. Now, I have the deluxe edition. There is the Grindhouse and another edition after that that's out there, but this is the one that I have. And I had a lot of fun opening this up for the first time. And it's delightfully creepy, and I don't know, some of my tastes for running an RPG campaign, I think, a little bit more dark than some people like. But Lamentations fits me. Another game that I'm very fond of, and let's see here, is Barbarians of Lemuria. And this is just a printed out PDF. I don't actually have a physical copy of this other than, the stuff that I printed. I have been talking to Nero's Fiddle a lot, Alex, about Barbarians of Lemuria over the years. I really like the system. It's easy, it's quick, it bleeds swords and sorcery, and it's very easy to hack into other sort of genres as well. Most of the time I've used it for sword and sorcery though. The next product is Changeling Lost. This game is just gorgeous. I love the themes of this. I've done a lengthy overview, I guess, slash review for this before. I I've never been able to run a successful campaign of this or a chronicle. I have never been able to play in a successful chronicle of this. So this is sort of on my bucket list of things that I want to try to do successfully one day, either as a player or as a GM. The next one is Vampire the Masquerade. This game is interesting for me because it pushes me in different directions. For a long time, I've wanted to do more social games, games that have less to do with combat and more to deal with factions vying against each other, people having secrets, having plots and schemes, and trying to work those plots and schemes to fruition, to sometimes betray people that are close to you, all those sorts of things. And Vampire is one of those games that I think is very good for that. It's a very good social game. I have ran, I think, 2 chronicles of this now. I've run some one shots. I've used the Old Darkness system for an ongoing Firefly game on a play-by-post forum, and I think that it's finally dead. It took a long time to die, but it came back a few times from the grave. But I really like the D10 dice pool system. I've used it in a couple different campaigns. I ran a Midnight Fantasy campaign with it, Firefly I mentioned, and I just did a generic fantasy one time. But yeah, I really like the clans, all the flavor of the. This is the second edition; it's not revised, and I think this is my preferred edition of the game. Next one is A Song of Ice and Fire. Now, I was kind of conflicted here whether I wanted to bring this one up or the Game of Thrones D20, but in the end, I chose this one. It's also a gorgeous book. I guess I'll show you guys there. It was a bit expensive, but the system itself is the first system where I looked at social mechanics in a positive light. I was always one of those people that prefers role playing most of the time over a dice roll or you just a dice roll. You can do role playing and a dice roll, but this was the first game where I really liked the system. The social mechanics seemed to fit the setting very well because there's so much politics involved, where rank and family, they have a lot to do with the campaign, the setting, and I've had a lot of fun. I've been in this. I haven't ran any games with this, but I've played twice, and both times were ran by Zig Copacetic, who was a former YouTube member, and I had a blast. I really liked how the stories sort of unfolded, the various questionable moral choices that the characters made, the selfishness of some of the characters. It When I played in this game, it felt very much like George R. R. Martin's setting, and I greatly appreciate that. That's one of my favorite books, favorite book series that I've ever read. So I rate this one pretty highly. What's nice about that one is that instead of stats and skills, there's just sort of a combination. I guess you call them like traits or abilities that take over both of those things. It's one list. It's a pretty short list. It's straightforward, easy to play. Next game is Labyrinth Lord, which is a retro clone of Basic and Expert D&D. I do own Basic. I don't own Expert in the original, but I like how they cleaned it up. I like that there's optional rules for um, using advanced edition type situations, type mechanics if you want to. But really, I just prefer the simple. I could have also picked Dark Dungeons, but I don't have a copy of that. That's the retro clone of the Rule Cyclopedia. I do own the Rule Cyclopedia, so maybe I should have picked that over this. But I don't know. When it comes to retro clones, I tend to prefer them over the original because there's some clarification there, a little bit of a more modern spin on some things. Not much, Labyrinth Lord is pretty much straight up basic D&D. It's this game itself gave me the love again for running and playing in fantasy RPG sessions. I kind of got burned out for a long time after playing probably about 10 years of Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition and 3.5. After that, I think I was burnt on both fantasy and more modern incarnations of D&D. But this kind of, this brought me back. It hit me in the chest with the paddles, and here I am again. So thanks, Labyrinth Lord. These next ones are all setting based, pretty much. And I love a lot of strange settings. This, I think, is probably my favorite setting. And with only 10 RPG products in the list, it's kind of tough to whittle things down. But yeah, Professor M.A.R. Barker's Empire of the Petal Throne. This is the actual rule set. And then there are 2 copies that I have. I think these are reprints of Swords and Glory Volume 1, Book 1, and Book 2. So there's the first. And I've done reviews of these before. And there's the second. These books are interesting because, unlike other setting books that I've seen, the Swords and Glory goes through and it divides the setting up not by race, not by culture. It's more about the individual parts of culture. So it'll talk a little bit about religions in some aspects, and it'll talk about how the various cultures all are similar in this respect and different in this respect. And it was interesting because it hits you with so much information. These 2 books are just packed with setting information. If you're into Tekumel or you want to learn more about it, I would suggest getting these 2 books. There is a lot of information in EPT and Empire of the Pale Throne and other games that came out for the setting, but I don't think I've ever seen a setting book that covered so much detail in as few pages. It's very dense. There's lots of information there. You can get overwhelmed with setting details, but I kind of like that in a setting. I kind of like having tons of lore that I, want to learn. It gives me something to look at and to read over when I'm bored. And last but not least, we have basic role playing. I have never ran a full campaign using BRP. I tried to once. I tried to run a Firefly game with it, but that kind of fell through. The players just didn't show up. So it was like an online game, so that kind of happens sometimes. But I've used BRP for, I believe, 4 or 5 one-shots now. And I love to use it in a very stripped down, not very many optional rules kind of way. And in a lot of respects, I like to use it just as a D100 engine. And I just use this for powers and, various rule systems, optional rules if I want to do something different. You have, there's a lot of games out there that use BRP or a BRP-like engine. So there's a ton of optional rules out there if you want to, bolt and graft things onto this. I like it too because I can mix genres very, very easily. Other people like generic games like Savage Worlds or Cortex or what have you. But for me, this is it. This is all I need to really run any sort of genre, anything I want to just give a shot at. This is my experimental game, when I want to run something strange, like thrash metal superheroes of the apocalypse, I use BRP for that. And I just I just used a bunch of lyrics from a bunch of metal bands for that one shot as powers. So you can do all kinds of things with this. Don't be afraid to try new things. So that is my 10 products. I would like to hear, what are your favorite 10 products? This doesn't have to be RPG specifically. It could be like an RPG supplement. It could be a module, an adventure. Product is pretty wide open there. So as long as you think it's an RPG product in some fashion, feel free to put it in a video. I'd like to hear what your favorite things are that are in your collection that you've used. Maybe even you sold it and you regret selling it. You wish you had it back. But yeah, let me know. I'd be curious to hear. Thanks.